before this video starts, I just want to give a big thank you to all my new subscribers. You guys are amazing. I love every single one of you. We're so close to 400. Thank you so much. Let's get into S.T.A.L.K.E.R 2. I first discovered S.T.A.L.K.E.R towards the end of the COVID lockdown. I was just browsing YouTube one day and I came across a YouTube channel called Operator Drewski, and I saw he recently posted a video about some sort of survival game I've never heard of before called S.T.A.L.K.E.R Anomaly. I watched his series all the way through, and I immediately fell in love with it. I got very immersed in his first series of S.T.A.L.K.E.R Anomaly. So much so, I ended up getting the original trilogy, Heart of Chornobyl, Clear Sky, and Call of Pripyat, as there was something oddly comforting about exploring the eerie atmospheric world of the zone, a place where I could just escape everything. The game really pulled me in during a time when the real world still felt uncertain and disconnected. And to be honest, it still kind of does in some ways, as I'm in my last year of university. The freedom and the sheer unpredictability of the zone just fascinated me to an extent I don't think any other open world game has done, except for Skyrim. And that fascination turned into a quickly full-blown obsession. But it wasn't until S.T.A.L.K.E.R Anomaly, when I played that it truly consumed me. Once I played that mod, I found myself utterly immersed in the bleak and beautiful world of the zone. And for some added context, S.T.A.L.K.E.R Anomaly is essentially just a community-made mod that combines all three of the original games into one gigantic experience that's heavily modded and minimal story, but primarily focuses on the sandbox and survival aspect of the games, which I find to be the most immersive part of the whole experience. But I sure spent hundreds of hours wandering through ruined villages, evading anomalies, scavenging for supplies, and surviving the chaos of faction warfare. I even tried my hand at an Iron Man playthrough. This wasn't just a game. It became a kind of refuge for me at a time when I was stressed out as a sophomore in college, unsure about my future, and felt isolated. And the irony's not lost on me, playing a game like S.T.A.L.K.E.R when feeling isolated. The zone gave me something to hold on to. It gave me structure, an escape, and sometimes even peace. In many ways, these games got me through one of the toughest times in my life, towards the end of COVID. They helped me cope, helped me stay grounded and feel connected to something, and everything else felt like it was falling apart. And with that being said, I hope you enjoy my review of S.T.A.L.K.E.R 2, Heart of Chornobyl.
Here it is.
As a longtime fan of the S.T.A.L.K.E.R series, I genuinely wanted to fall head over heels with S.T.A.L.K.E.R 2, Heart of Chornobyl, as the zone always held a special place in my heart. A bleak, mysterious world filled with danger and isolation. In many ways, S.T.A.L.K.E.R 2 does capture that magic and spirit of the original. It's still there, the unsettling silence between anomalies, the oppressive ruins of the old way of life before the accident, the flicker of distant gunfire, but for every step forward, I feel there's a frustrating flaw that holds the game back from reaching its full potential, mostly in its visuals, performance, and A-life systems. But there's no denying the ambition behind this project. The world feels alive, hostile, unpredictable, and dripping with tension. The decaying industrial structures, mutated wildlife, anomalies, hazards, everything create an environment that's as immersive as it is threatening. GSC Game World deserves credit for crafting a zone that feels so oppressive and organic, evoking existential dread and mystery that fans have come to expect. The survival mechanics, radiation, hunger, limited resources. Even though during my 2 playthroughs at launch and more recently now, I never felt resources were very limited. Like, I was always swimming in ammunition, especially towards the later end of the game. But I do feel it still does strike a satisfying balance between challenging and immersive. Well, depending on who you ask. One of the most anticipated features was the revamped A-life system, which is meant to simulate a dynamic living zone where factions, mutants, and NPCs interact independently of the player. For example, you'll be off in garbage doing your own thing, and the people in Cordon are still walking around, not literally, but in the background. The game is calculating what they'd be doing at that time if you were there, but you're not. And at launch, A life was practically non-existent. Enemies would pretty much just spawn wherever you went. And it felt sort of scripted. And even now with some changes, the world doesn't feel quite like there's a life. It's certainly better than what it was at launch, but it still doesn't capture that magic the original games had. Don't get me wrong, the foundation is very strong, but it's still not quite there. Narratively, I did find myself engaged. The story leans into familiar themes of betrayal, survival, choice and consequence, a little bit of mystery, but it's all delivered in a tone that respects the bleakness of the universe. The pacing has its lulls, the voice acting is good though, but honestly, I can't stop hearing V's voice and the English voice actor for Skiff.
What did you do to Mastiff?
I don't know if that's just me, but there is a richness to the world. And for those willing to explore the nooks and crannies of this world, you'll find notes, bodies, all of which that tell stories of how they got there or what they were doing. The environment is very well detailed, and I feel like it's very close to how Bethesda designs their sort of environmental storytelling assets. And it's very good. And for those who like that sort of thing, where like the environment tells the story instead of just having to like read through notes or listen to exposition from NPCs, I think you really enjoy this here as it's very good and very immersive. However, when it comes to player choice, I feel the game sort of stumbles a bit on the surface. It presents you with moral decisions, but it presents you with moral decisions, but most of the time you're just going to pick in side A or B. Stalkers or military. There are a few cases where you can pick a third option, but those are very few and far between. And in the end, that third option doesn't feel like it really matters. Often the consequences for your choice are either minimal, or they're even forgotten by the faction you sided against. And I feel like this is a missed opportunity, as there's really a sense that your decisions ripple through the game world in meaningful ways. And that lack of reactivity, I feel like, undermines the idea of true player agency, as the world is morally gray and chaotic, and I don't know, it's just a missed opportunity in my opinion. But I feel like my biggest gripe has to be the visuals. Stalker 2 is unfortunately a letdown in my opinion. Despite its pre-release marketing hype, the graphics were underwhelming at best. You know, high-end hardware, the game often looks blurry. All the objects in the world sort of just bleed together since they all sort of share the same color palette, if that makes sense. Like all the browns and grays and the greens all sort of bleed together, making the overall image quality feel kind of muddy and messy. That could be because of the upscaling the game has to offer, but I'm no expert on this stuff. I'm just telling you how I feel it. Although I feel like the development context cannot be ignored. GSC Game World was building this game during the Ukraine war, which GSC Game World was located before the Russian-Ukraine war. And the hardship the developers had to go through in order to ship this game, even though they did move to Prague, is heartbreaking. But a lot of time and money was wasted during that move, so I'm sure some important time they could have had to polish the game up was lost. Performance is sort of mixed. I'm running this game on a 4080, and I have to use frame generation and DLSS performance mode just to hit 60 FPS on a 4K monitor. Just to hit 60 FPS. Even now, on patch 1.5, performance is still not great. It's better, but it's still not where I think it should be. While these problems are likely to be ironed out over time, they affect the experience right now, and especially for newcomers who might not have patience with this stuff. I'm sure this will be many people's very first Stalker game, and first impressions are everything. And on the technical side of things, I don't think Stalker 2 gives a good impression. That being said, there is hope on the horizon. Mod support has been added in the 1.5 update to the modders that kept these games alive, from the people who made Stalker Anomaly to Gamma. The fact that we now have modding tools for Stalker 2 gives me hope for the future, that Stalker 2 might become a game that, with a few years, modders will completely change. But GSC Game World has promised to make story content for Stalker 2. So I'm also looking forward to that. But overall, the future of Stalker 2 is bright. They're updating the game, making changes where people are asking for changes, and I'm excited. I really am. In the end, I'm honestly really torn. There's a lot to admire in Stalker 2, and I'm so glad it exists. I'm glad it was made, and I'm so glad the developers are safe and sound in Prague. I'm also very happy that they added mod support to the game, so people can make their own adjustments to the game as they see fit. From skin changes to guns to maybe even total overhauls that add whole new features. Like, there are moments where everything clicks. The tension, the danger, the eerie calm, the quiet in between. And then you remember why this series means so much to people. Why it means so much to me. With the blurry visuals and the clunky performance and the shallow choices and consequence and pretty decent story. This game, in many ways, feels like it's still a work in progress. You can still find fun in it, sure. Stalker 2 is a worthy continuation of the cult classic. While it's weighed down by performance issues and blurry visuals and odd choice and consequences, I feel like the soul of the zone is still very much there. It's covered in a lot of mud and guck. And the devs will have to work hard to clean up this diamond, because there's a lot shining underneath its dirt, and that's no small feat. With time, with updates, and a strong modding support, this could evolve into something truly great. But for now, it's an ambitious and uneven experience, one that fans will appreciate, but newcomers might struggle to connect with. That has been my review of Stalker 2. I hope you enjoy, and thanks for watching. Peace out.